But you know, he's 70, maybe 74.
Yeah.
One heck of a coach.
Yeah. His brother too, Jimmy, was good.
The whereabouts, they drove, they said that they. Somebody, like the houses on the right side is along the houses. I don't know where they're gonna start their stop, but. It seemed like that we were gonna go there, what is it now, 55? There's no speed. So. Yeah, I don't.
Really?
If you have to go where you would make sense of it, there's.
Yes,
Yeah, I told the people that lived along there, because they asked, so who requested speed limit, if that's speed limit, who were, should see, they were making 45, and you know, they can all appeal, you know, and now, you know, modified it, and that's what the speed limit is. It's just that.
Well, it's 9 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody have anything to add to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it, Mr. Chair.
Motion agenda, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. The meeting minutes were sent out.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the July 1st meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Warrants were sent out.
That came on. I thought they were going to defend him. And. If it doesn't, let me know and I can do it. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to pay the bills. Second.
Had a motion and a second to pay the bills. Any discussion on any of them? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Morning, man. Board packet. Big Pat. Up on County Road 10 there, cause there's a lot of parsnip up on 10 north of Ashby. You've seen it, maybe.
Yep, we're working on it.
Yeah.
Our spray truck was down for about a week and a half, so.
Yep. I just take care of a place north of town there and I seen that, so.
Yep, we had some major motor issues with the
yeah.
truck, so.
What do you do?
Yeah, well, we got it fixed now, so.
Okay.
What was wrong?
We lost all fuel pressure, the fuel rail system,
Hmm.
something, yeah,
Like a fuel shut off, or what did he fix?
I have no clue.
You got her going now though.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. You start. Oh, okay. Pat, you wanna go first then? You want me to go first? Sure. Alright. Commissioners, as you can see, I gave you guys our capital plan here of our equipment. Every other, we rotate between a truck and a road grader as our major equipment purchases. I went out and got 3 different quotes, 2 from RDO and 1 from Ziegler. The lowest being $315,627.23 to trade in. The middle at $340,396.03, and the highest one at $340,515.03. The difference between the bottom 2 is one has 6-wheel drive, one is your regular 2 4-wheel drive, whatever you wanna call it, I guess there's your tandem drive, so.
And they were both John Deere.
Yep, them were both John Deere. John Deere was lower in price significantly this year than Cat. I don't know what the reasoning is, but yeah.
Was it like 25,000?
Yeah, it's about that 35, yeah, 25,000, yep.
Yeah.
So, but I would go with the recommendation of going with the 6-wheel drive. It's it's not the cheapest bid, but it would be more useful to us. The 6-wheel drive really helps us out on the road graders in the winter time.
It's 772.
Yep, the 772P, yep. So. And then, yeah, as you can see here, I got the yellow one highlighted, which one's gonna get replaced. It'll be the Ashby road grader.
They're giving us like 95,000 for that, something like that.
It depends on, if John Deere to. Yeah, John Deere's giving us 98,000, where I think Cat was giving us 115,000,
Okay.
so. Yep.
We had, with the 6-wheel and 4-wheel drive, do we have similar graders with 6-wheel drive?
Yes, we have two 672 models. They're this a little bit smaller motor size. Which one is in Elbow Lake here and one is in Herman.
But we know how they perform.
Yep. Yep, and you can shut it off and on, so it's, just use it when you need it, so you don't wear out tires as much, but yeah.
It's oil driven up front, wheel moves.
Yep.
And there's a better market for that blade as a 6-wheel drive than just
Yep.
regular drive in the back.
For resale value, yes, sir.
Yes.
For trade-in value, yep.
Right.
Expected delivery is, I'm assuming they gotta build it.
They gotta build it yet, it will be the first part of the year, January, February, somewhere in there. So, it sounds like their build times are getting a little bit faster. But then it sounds like when you go to get the snowplow equipment, that's falling a little bit farther behind too, so,
They're gonna be when they are, right?
yep.
And you're getting joysticks with the steering wheel?
Yep, the John Deere's have the joysticks in the steering wheel, so you can use either one.
Right.
So, some of the guys like to use the steering wheel compared to the joysticks.
How are we sitting now with the Cat versus John Deere?
This will be our fourth John Deere and we'll only have one Cat left
After this one goes.
after this one, yep. Hoffman will be the only one that's got a Cat road grader left. And that's just strictly due to the pricing. Every time John Deere comes in and beats them up, so.
So your spreadsheet shows just one unit in 2026, so you anticipate that being your only major request?
Yeah, my only major request that I wanna pre-order. You know, I don't need to order a truck or nothing. I mean, we'll have pickups, stuff like that, but
Yeah.
yep, this is the only thing that I have to order so we can get it within this year, so.
And you'll be sure Jamie knows the price, so, and expected.
Yeah, and that won't come out until we receive it.
Right.
Yep, this is just the order where there's no money down this.
Right, but just so she has cash when the time.
Yep, I'll make sure of it.
I'll make a motion to go with the recommendation of whichever one that was. I didn't pull it up.
772 PP,
That one.
the John Deere. Yep.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second to purchase a grader. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, the first item I have is the contract final for CASA 6 or Berwin Avenue down in Herman. I believe this was in 2018 project, or no, I'm way off. Maybe 2023 if that, 2022, I think it was when it started. Yeah. You know, there was some significant change order on it, I know. I know right when I started, and then we've been taking a little time to try to get the grass growing, but I think we got that all situated with the people down there. So what's left is just a final acceptance by the board and to make final payment. The final payment is $5,868.94. So I'd look for a motion from the board to accept the contract and make final payment.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that. Got a question for, is that the 1% then?
Yep.
What's left? Okay.
It's just retainage.
And the stormwater tiling,
Yeah,
just behind the curb and all that, that's working well. So
Yeah,
the
so
water's
far.
standing around down there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't been there when there's been a real big rain, but I.
Yeah.
Haven't heard nothing.
That would happen.
Probably not gonna handle a really big rain, but
Yeah,
it'll eventually get the water out.
But there's water standing in the streets.
Yeah.
The catch basin, I mean, it gets to the catch basin.
Yeah,
So then the complete, it says 106.11%, is the 6.11 the extra in the,
yeah, those were the extras that would be the change orders.
so 6% over the.
Yep.
Which is not that at all.
No, typically you'd wanna see 10% or less on projects, so.
any more discussion? We have all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried.
The next item I have is a resolution for a speed zone study request. I received a petition from about, signed by about 30 people that live down by Casat 10, the new road that we just paved, starting from Casat 2 and heading north about a mile. They believe that the speeds are a little high right there. It is kind of a residential area. They would like us to take a look at it and see if the speed limit should be lowered there. This resolution is in order to initiate that with speed limit studies. Those are done by Minnesota Department of Transportation. So if the board would like them to study it, all we got to do is pass a resolution, and I would forward it on to the state and have a discussion meetings with them, and then they would do a study to see if they should implement a speed zone in that area. So if you want, you can, I'd be just looking for approval of this resolution, and I will get it to MinDOT for the speed zone study.
I didn't hear, Matt, were there citizens down there that were requesting this or?
Yep, I received a petition signed by about 30 people that live down in that area.
Okay.
So we're just looking at Casat 10 and heading north about a mile.
Yeah.
Pretty much to that surcharge area. That was an issue.
What is the speed limit there now?
55.
That's the state speed limit.
Yep,
It's too fast.
it's not posted there, so it's 55, so
Right.
they would like to see it lowered. What that ends up being will be determined by whatever MinDOT study comes up with.
Was a recommendation from the highway committee. I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second, any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Senator Wexstrom and I testified on that, created that legislation when took over 54. They wanted to keep, we wanted to keep 54 at 60.
Oh, yeah.
And if it would revert back to 55, so that's how that all went all the way back.
And that did kind of throw me off when I drove down. This in the swap lot. 10 and 17.
Yep.
There,
Yep.
60.
Yeah. So that's why that all come about. Or otherwise it wouldn't have been a possibility, but the metros are grumbling about it.
Well, if they did a study and they said that that's the speed it should be, it shouldn't change based on jurisdiction.
Yes, I agree.
Oh.
Well, not my question, well, I just did. I said 10, but I was wrong by. It was not a question. You can just jump ahead. See if not, yeah.
They gotta know who you are. Where do you have all these? They were sitting over there.
He keeps them in his back pocket.
That's what I'm wondering, why is he carrying them around in his bag?
No, they were sitting there, so I decided to
Backers.
put them on.
Top one, production. My understanding of it, and I was not a study, so my understanding that they got really. It's a base of my home, farms you. That they were all managed.
Yeah, the metros were growing, speed studies live, and we got plugged in. Then 40 was the lead on it, all the years when we acquired the 54, they wanted to keep it at 60, so that's what we did. with County Road 10, because that would have reverted back to 55 too.
Is that 60?
Yep.
54, so.
No, I mean, County Road 10.
55.
It's a 50, you say 55? It can be 60. I don't know, it was allowed to be 60, now what the state's gonna do with it.
But it should be, on that south end, it should be slower than that.
Oh, yeah. Well, they go off in the two bigger ones.
No.
Yeah. Take them out of there.
So what happened in your neighborhood was on Sunday, when it's, you know, the ambulances or not, deputies rolling out that direction.
I don't know what went on, but I was at the fairgrounds. I didn't see ours, but I see Travis County come from the east and went through town with lights and siren and flew over everywhere with traffic. I don't know what the hell was wrong.
Okay, you don't know.
Okay, spectator type deal.
I seen shortly after that, one of our pickups was on T-shirt. I don't know what. And then, one of them SUVs too, but I don't know. I didn't go up to see store after that, I guess.
I don't run now, you know, you made her nosy.
I don't think you could have caught him.
You know, they went by when I placed, they wouldn't, she's going there, they could be wrong.
I usually go hidden behind it, if everybody go quick.
Yep. Got it done.
He's getting
So with this.
Yeah,
And I was taking it out two deputies up, he's actually. Schrader on there.
Oh, yeah. He's, it needs to be litigation.
Are you ready?
Yep.
So we have, posted internally for Environmental Services Department, two positions, the director and the assistant. They were internal postings and they have closed now. And so I'm coming to the board asking, being that this was an internal for a department head position, if you would like the director position to be interviewed by the full board, or if you'd like it to be interviewed by, myself and then the soon to be retired director. Just looking for some direction from the board.
To the personnel committee, who Ashley asked, and normally a department head, the full board would interview. Didn't we do that when we kind of selected Reed to get trained in, and so I don't know the answer, that's why we're here.
There is only one applicant. And I know in the past, when it's been a department head, if there's been more than one, we've interviewed, we've not had an internal department head advertisement, so that's why I'm just looking for direction as far as how the board wants to proceed.
So would you say there are circumstances that would, let's say, justify or lead us to a change from normalcy? In other words, as precedence wise, explain that a little bit.
Well, this position, for internally, we haven't had an internal department head position, so this is new. This is a new situation. Other department heads have been advertised outside, and we've gotten more than one. So then they've been, interviewed here. So this would be nothing we've ever experienced, so.
Well, we have an experience, and we hired, probably a year ago, we hired the individual with kind of the understanding that he would be taking over, right? So that's where I don't know if we need to do the full board interview. I'm perfectly fine with it if we do. It's deviating from what we've done in the past, so we need to come here and ask.
Did the personnel committee weigh in on it, or what is?
We said come here and ask because it's. Whatever this board wants to do, that's fine.
What would you recommend, Ashley?
I don't have a recommendation.
My thought is we've already been through this. We had the intent of that individual taking this over, so that's my thought, but I'm fine if we want to do an interview.
Well, I guess my thought would be, I think either way you do it, potential outcome very likely would be the same when you have one applicant. So for that reason, I would say we should probably just have not your recommendation, but what's on here, the HR and the informal.
Great, yep.
Based on that, that's what I would. And do you need a motion, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Make that motion.
Have a motion, we get a second?
Well, I'm indifferent on the process, so I'll second that motion.
Any more discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Maya?
You ready?
Just coming today with kind of an update where things are at. We've been through, we had Heather come in and do some cleaning prior to the jury trial. I think that went pretty well. She got through the courtroom, all in the commons areas. Everything's pretty well got wiped down. She went through every light fixture, cleaned every light globe. It looks pretty good in there. We did experiment with some lighting in the main floor if you happen to go through there. Just testing out some different bulbs. There's been some complaints how dark it is down on the ground level. The bulbs make a difference. We have to look at look and aesthetics and all those things to go along with it, but it was one option to see about getting it brighter down on the main level as opposed to adding something that's not historic to the building. So we're still working on that kind of an experimenting process, but if you get a chance to look, there's some different bulbs on the main level of the courthouse. It did have Peterson sheet metal came through, kind of walked me through like the HVAC system at the courthouse, the LEC. There was some issues LEC wise with temperature. We did find that there was one unit that was running 24/7, sucking outside air temperature into the building. Just tweak that a little bit. And then they also were able to swap some filters out and made there was a unit in the foyer that was not working properly. So I don't know, John, seems to be working good at this point.
Yeah, we went through the unit to kind of take care of it.
Okay, so that seems to be in better shape. I did get a call this, go ahead.
So you said this unit that was running, is that something that's thermostat, humidity, manual? So is that supposed to be turned on or off, or how does?
So it
automated?
was automated, so it was programmed, because the building is 24/7, it was running 24/7 to bring, basically it was a fresh air, air exchange unit. So it was sucking whatever the outside air temperature and humidity was, it was bringing that into every room in the building as is. But it was running 24/7. So when Peterson was there, the controls guy, I asked, does that need to run 24/7? Basically that's saying there's never any exchange of air, the door's never open, there's no flow of air whatsoever. That brings in fresh air from outside, but that doesn't necessarily have to, you don't need to have fresh air coming in every second of every day. So what we did was we chose a morning hours, like a 5 to 8 setting instead of a 24/7 setting on it, just to see how that would work. As far as bringing some fresh air in during the cooler hours of the day versus during the middle of the afternoon when it's 95 and humid. That's what they were getting in, it pumped into their rooms as well as so it was kind of working overtime to compensate for the fresh air that was coming in. So
you're exchanging 3 hours a day now?
right. Just to see how it goes. So, and it's just an automated setting. So if they decide they wanna go back to 24/7, it's a couple clicks of a button and it can be back to that, but at this point, there really isn't need to exchange air 24/7 with as much as that building is gone in and out of. We
Did it
had,
make a difference, John?
Well, there's been, like Maya would say, there was an adjustment, it's called the ECU. So it wasn't in fact purposely set to run 24/7 because it was a new building, just to continually bring in air and, you know, get the smells of the new building and everything out. Yeah, in conversation with PSM and Ellingson's, who's responsible for that unit. They said setting it back to a couple hours in the morning is fine at this point. So yeah, so with the adjustment of the ECU and then working through the two other heat pump issues, one in the lobby and one downstairs in the mechanical room. It looks like the system's pretty much balanced now and has made a considerable difference as far as the humidity in there and everything keeping up as it should. So I think we're on the right track now.
So did they take you in the basement of the courthouse and look over the geothermal that's, you know, the circulating motors and things like that, and whether kind of a schedule to?
he just went through the controls piece of it, that part will come a little bit later. There was just an inspection done in, I believe that inspection was done in May, so, they will be back out later this summer and we'll go through that. Hopefully, yeah, so we had that conversation. So at this point, everything appears to be running how it's supposed to be running, so.
You know, there's a greaser on the bottom when we looked at it the one day,
Yeah.
you know, so it's, you know, they're 15 years old, so
Right.
they've done a lot of
Yeah,
moving of water and
right.
circulating and things like that, so that's, you know, I don't know what the maintenance is on it, once a year, maybe.
There's,
We hit 'em
and
with
there's
these.
so this building currently has a service plan. It's a 3-year plan, goes through 2028. It was just started in April or May of this year, or is continued, I should say, in April or May of this year. We have talked with, I know John talked to Ellingson's about doing one for the LEC. Also, Peterson Sheet Metal that does the controls for this building or for the courthouse, and they also said they could give a service plan estimate for the buildings. So, we'll just look at that and see how that goes, just to keep everything running smoothly. So,
Yeah, we've got, is it Monday, right, Ryan? I
the
think.
21st, I think it is.
Yeah, so, next Monday, we've got a guy, Dave from Ellingson's coming over to look at everything, to give us a price for a, you know, quarterly inspection, which will include, you know, changing out all the filters, looking at all the heat pumps, the ECU, everything else, working with PSM. So they'll be able to do a walkthrough, just to give everybody an idea of what that price would be and what kind of contract.
Question, so would these potential vendors, contracts satisfy our need for a boiler's license?
No.
Could they?
Well, I mean, they may have somebody in-house that has that credential. We haven't checked into that piece of it yet. So we do have some interviews this week. One does have a boiler's license, so, you know, that's promising that, you know, somebody with those credentials is applying. We haven't gone through that process yet, so we'll see how that goes, but, the other side is there are some individuals in the community that hold those licenses that potentially we could contract with, just to have, you know, somebody that's in that, you know, can take care of that piece. And then the other option would be somebody could go and take that test and basically get the license for us.
So you
So,
do have multiple options.
right, yep. So, working through that, and like, we're kind of waiting to see how the interview process goes. It doesn't, you know, if I don't have to go take a test to get a license, I won't do that, but I mean, it's a possibility too, so. Yeah, so that's kind of where that piece is at. Hopefully this week we'll know more. The highway department, the interns have been up to mow and trim, and they've done a great job for us, so we really appreciate their helping keep the grass cut, and they were there for a whole afternoon and pulled a bunch of weeds around the courthouse and really did a great job, so we appreciate them coming, so. The LEC project should be, he planned to be there today to clean up. He had some reseeding in a spot. He was gonna leave some seed for where the logs sat. They sat too long. There was a miscommunication on that piece. I assumed he was pulling them. He thought we were pulling them. That was a miscommunication there. So we'll get those lines reseeded and he planned to come right before Fleckfest to do the first cutting on it. And then, we can move forward with that process. So, but hopefully today he'll come back to clean up those logs and kind of finish up the seeding portion of that project. Jury trial seems to be going pretty smooth at this point, so they're supposed to be wrapping up with prosecution yesterday or today and then doing defense. At this point, we haven't heard that it's gonna go longer than Friday, but it could, so. But it's been pretty quiet on the other two levels. I mean, you probably wouldn't know if you were in there that there was a bunch of stuff going on upstairs, so that part's been good. Other than that, we just had sprinkler inspections, just came through last week. They did let me know that our 5-year inspections for this building, the courthouse and the highway are due, so they're gonna get me a quote on that. I don't know where that is at in the budget piece, but the yearly inspections were done, but there's a 5-year inspection as well where they have to flush some things out and do some other pieces. So they were gonna get that quote to me as far as when that can be done and how much that. But they are required, so I'm assuming that we'll go forward with that, but I'll let you know when I get those pieces. I think that is all I had on my list for right now. Any questions of me on that?
Question. Obviously, in the news, there's stuff from Texas. From Grant County standpoint, would you say that from our public awareness, just our overall emergency management standpoint, are we prepared for an anticipated event in your estimation? Properly prepared.
I would say, I think my predecessor left a lot of things that were good in place, but as far as going door to door to say who, it's kind of like you can do everything and you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink type of a deal. So I think all the steps have been taken for Grant County to be prepared for an event. Does everybody listen to that? I can't promise you that happens, but I would say yes. As far as Grant County is concerned, as far as each individual, I would say there's no way to do it.
Yeah.
But
from
our aspect, yes, I believe my predecessor did a great job of planning and preparing and I can ask her a lot of questions too if I need to, so that's what I would tell you.
Thank you.
Just like that, I got you back on track.
I think the last time there was to that magnitude, we had like a 6-inch rain. And I don't know if you were around back then, but the town was, we had sewers that were inundated.
Backed up.
Oh, yeah, we were emergency bypassing and pumping out of basements and pumping out of manholes and all kinds of stuff, so. I think you just gotta take one day at a time.
Yep.
How do you prepare for something like that? You don't.
Luckily, we don't have any major, Red River's not flowing through town or anything like that, so. For the most part, we're in pretty good shape here, but you just never know. Ours could be a tornado that takes out 2 towns or something like that. That would be devastating, but.
Okay,
All right, thank you. Oh, shoot, yes. One other piece, sorry, I totally spaced that one out. Heather's been covering, during this trial period now. We do have interviews this week. I believe just about every applicant we had said they would give a 2-week notice at their job they're currently at. So I guess the question would be, would the board be in favor of potentially working with Heather to get, you know, a couple more days a week through the end of this month, just to get us to that, when we have a new hire in place. I asked if she was interested in that. She said she would be. We haven't really talked details on, you know, I would guess it would be back to the 2 or 3 hours a couple times a week or something like that, just to cover floors and restrooms and public areas. I guess I'm just looking for if I should pursue that, or if you want to see a contract first, or the difficult piece here would be is that it's the next 2 weeks and you don't meet again till after that period, so.
I would make the motion to have facility maintenance continue getting the courthouse clean through August 5th. That's our next board meeting. I'll second that.
More discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you. Thanks, Tina.
Greg?
Ready to back on track? You've been used up all of your time, Greg, sorry.
It's all right. I'm good with that. Morning, gentlemen. So, as you can see on the agenda, we do have a conversation continuing with our solid waste program. So today's, conversation revolves around those, mandatory lakeshore assessment routes we have in the county. We've been talking about, you know, changing things up a little bit, trying to make it a little more fair and equitable. And one of the first steps in doing that then is going to be, having the folks out on our lakeshore routes, go to dumpsters, canisters, I should say. 65-gallon canisters is what we've been talking about. So, this will be the first step in that process of, trying to go to a more volume-based garbage system. And it'll also hopefully in the long run simplify how we do billing and all that. So today's request is to allow our office to request that Inga Bretson purchase approximately 400 of those carts that we would have the clients out on those routes start using in January. So.
So you're talking about the mandatory routes.
Correct.
You referenced Lake Shore. It's not Lake Shore necessarily, is it?
Primarily, it's all the lakeshore. Those are the mandatory lakeshore routes that do not have canisters currently. They all just throw as many bags as they want out onto the curb. Right.
That coincides with Lake Shore.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, yep. All of those, 99%. There's maybe a few that bleed off that aren't on the lake, but for the most part, it's every one of those.
Mandatory routes.
Exactly. Yep. Those guys are, allowed to put whatever they want out and Inga Bretson picks it up.
And
So-
the discussion would be the 3 sizes, or we
At this point, I believe we've, talked about 165-gallon canister.
65?
Yep. Yep. That's kind of the standard size. Yep.
And then are they direct billed through Ingridson then?
No. So what we would do, so that's one little piece of the conversation though, at least for this first year, if we were to purchase or have Inga Bretson purchase those, then they would bill back $2 a month to the customer, but then we would assess that onto those taxes,
Okay.
right? So that $2 fee then for next year, Chad would put on the tax rolls to cover that cost.
Okay.
So then we would reimburse Inga Bretson that $2 a month for those 400 canisters.
Right now, Greg, who bills them now?
Currently, those folks just receive a bill on their taxes once a year.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any place in Grand County where Inga Bretson's billing?
Yes, on the non-mandatory routes.
But on these mandatory routes, so I got it right here now, they can throw out 50 bags of garbage and you gotta pick them up for that X amount of dollars.
Yep,
Yeah, and Troy and I serve on that committee and I'm one of them.
right.
It's really
Yep.
not fair. And so move in this direction, it would,
Right,
it's the right thing to do.
right. And that's what we're trying, and then, you know, we're just like we said, we got three goals: make it fair, volume-based, and simplify the billing. At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to get to, but there's a lot of moving parts that need to happen before we can really streamline it all. So we're trying to take baby steps, and this would be that first baby step. So the folks that already put their garbage in dumpsters and the commercial businesses, right, on the mandatory lakeshore routes wouldn't be affected. So Point Comfort, Sandy Point, those folks would not, those folks wouldn't be required
Subject to
to
it.
change anything, right? At least as far as needing a canister.
I have to
Right.
think Ingebrigtsen's gonna like it because it's gonna be quicker for them. They don't have to jump in and out of a truck.
Yes, yeah,
The efficiency would be built.
yeah, there's a lot of that going on too, yeah. And you know, we did talk about trying then moving forward to host a couple of, at least one public forum. So we're shooting for, I believe, August 12th. I think we talked about that last time. So we'll hold that here in Elbow Lake. We have redrafted a really good letter to put out. And so everyone who's potentially impacted by this going to a dumpster, canister, will be getting a letter and told what's going on. So they can come to the meeting or, you know, call and ask what's up, that kind of thing, right? So we're just trying to be transparent. But I really think this is a good first step move, or good move to move forward. So what we would be doing then is authorizing Ingebretson to go out and purchase those 400 plus canisters, because there's a 3 or 4 month lead to get those, like we talked before. So if we were to do that now, then we would have a window there to try to get this going, at least the volume part for those routes in January.
So
There'll be
upfront
little
would-
details to work
upfront
on.
would Ingebrigtsen pay for those cans?
Yes, they would.
And then,
They would own them and they would rent them to us for that 1 year for $2
Yeah.
a piece. And then in 26, or 27, the potential then would be that billing could potentially go straight to the landowner from Ingebretson.
$2 a month.
$2 a month, yes.
How much are they?
I believe they're about $90 a piece. I think that's kind of the going rate. Yeah. So, you know, it would be a pretty big expense up front if we were to purchase them, right? And I think they buy them by the semi, so it would, you know, you're talking 90 times 700, whatever the heck that is, right? That's quite a bit of money, so.
So Mr. Chair, I make the motion to inform Ingebrigtsen to order the carts for the mandatory routes, rural roads.
Okay. We have a motion, we get a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Not all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, gentlemen. We back on there? Oh, couple minutes.
Tina?
The temporary cannabis committee has been meeting and we're making really good progress on finalizing our county ordinance. But an important step to the process, the committee thought would to hold a public hearing in conjunction with a county board meeting. So we can allow the public to come and give any feedback. Or, you know, ask questions or whatever that might look like. And so I'm here today to request the board if you would be willing to have a public hearing, you know, following a county board meeting. And we could do it the next one. It would give us enough time to publish the public meeting notice in the paper to provide the public to come ask questions about the ordinance.
well, I think that's a good idea, to have that public hearing. So that we can get this all in motion, get it
And-
going.
Yeah, and it's consistent with other ordinances where we have a public hearing to allow people to come. And talk, and it's just in draft, you know, nothing's been approved yet, so it's an opportunity to hear and possibly provide feedback that could, you know, provide some revisions or things that haven't been thought about by the temporary committee. Yeah, it's not urgent, but we do need to move forward with the process of getting this ordinance done. To be consistent with what the state is looking at, so.
what about the surrounding counties? How far are they on some of this?
Some have already finished the process and have approved ordinances in place already.
Okay,
Did he say some of the?
Yes, if
townships?
some of the surrounding counties had.
I was just gonna say that we would then know the townships and the cities, what they decided by this hearing. That'd be
Some
accurate.
of them, yeah, most of them meet right away, most townships have their meetings the first part of August. We might not have everybody's responses by then, which is okay. All the townships and cities have gotten, the delegation letter sent out, and when I sent that out, I did put the, appropriate commissioner with those townships and cities, so they know that they can reach out to you to ask questions. And I also put in there that Ken and Dwight are on the temporary committee, so they might have a little bit more information. And so they've all been informed, and the purpose of that is for them to let the county know if they plan to have their own ordinance or if they will choose to be under the county ordinance.
Do we need a motion for that public hearing
set the date.
to set the date? I'll make that motion. Was it the 12th?
The fifth is, oh crap. I think it's the fifth. You just-
The fifth is our next meeting.
The fifth
Yeah.
is the next meeting, yeah.
Okay, I'll make the motion then that we have a public hearing after our August 5th commissioner meeting on the marijuana cannabis ordinance.
I'll second.
A motion and a second, any more discussion on that?
There's just a lot of little things in this new law that the state came with that need to be addressed. And this ordinance is gonna do it, but there's a lot of things in there that you normally wouldn't think about if you're just a normal out of the loop citizen. So we need to have this done.
Okay, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Carried. Board committee updates, budget and finance committee,
Continuing on, meeting with departments.
okay? Building committee, is there not anything with that?
We haven't met in a while.
no, but mine gives a pretty good update here, so it's moving forward.
Personnel committee,
We haven't met in a while.
no? Highway committee,
In a minute here. Highway committee, okay. So the highway, they finished, the crosswalk painting. You've probably seen them going around the county doing that. They finished they're on their second round of top cut, mowing of the ditches. They rented an excavator digging out frost boils and re-graveling on some of the trouble spot. County Road 43 in Wendell's ongoing. We'll be finishing up some odds and ends over the next couple of weeks in anticipation of paving at the end of the month. And then, on Trunk Highway 55, they're working on widening and raising the highway, while the water levels have been too high to put the culvert in yet. Hoping to install culverts next week if heavy rains stay away. Culverts on Cache Highway 54 south of town here, and 2 for the ditch project have been installed. The plan is, paving tomorrow or Thursday out there. So, and then on County Road 34 by Pine Ridge Park, the western box culvert has been installed. Currently working on the eastern, culvert. So they've been busy getting that stuff done. And, other items, received a couple, the highway said they received a couple options for Cache Highway 5 and, through Highway 55 intersection in Hoffman. And then the highway committee will be reviewing those items at their next meeting. So that's the highway department, the committee update.
Mr. Chair, let's go back to the personnel if we can. We did hear a presentation from Integrity about paid family and medical leave act.
yeah, Public safety,
I think Jen, somewhere we're gonna get information to Justin when the trial's done to get working on new city contracts. Did we have anything else for an update?
No, we just, we need to get going on the contracts, so we can get it to the cities.
Yep.
Before they start their budgeting. Which I'm sure they've already started, but.
Somebody has.
Yeah.
okay, solid waste committee,
I think Greg updated us in our prior discussion.
strategic planning committee,
Meeting end of the month.
Horizon Public Health,
Horizon Public Health, we met yesterday, things are going pretty smoothly, They did, talk about this new website that they got involved with, it's for people that are fighting emotional depression problems. But they fired it up in May there, and like 750 people had gone onto that website from the area, looking at it. Out of that, there was like 15 or 13 people, I think, that said they needed help right now, and then, of course, then there's services that pop up on there. So out of those, with that website there, I think that's a great deal, because we all know that people fight depression, and I've seen it, a lot of that in the 31 years of policing here, so. And, so that, it was a $12,000 investment. Somebody asked at the board meeting, is it worth it? Yeah, we said if it helps one person, $12,000 is nothing. Because, we run into these situations every year, those 5 counties are people fighting depression. And some of them take their own lives, and you can help one person out, it's worth it, so. That was a good thing to see yesterday, so. Other than that, we're doing okay, we're just they were talking about that family medical leave, which is totally confusing to me, but, all the other organizations are talking about that too, so we'll see how that all pans out. So that's my report from there.
okay, that's it for the committee updates. Tina, do you have our autograph, sheet for the bills?
No. That's too bad.
Yeah. Now we'll, any more business for the commissioner meeting? We'll adjourn at, 9:57 and we'll go into a work session. Okay, for the work session for today, it's just a discussion, there'll be no action. There'll be a handout by HR, update by HR. If you want to speak, you'll get 5 minutes. Keep in mind how union negotiations work. We work and what can and can't be discussed without representation for union groups. And when all employees have had a chance to speak, we can do a question and answer for that. And, the next steps, the options are support the process. Following the appeal process, use personnel committee, as always have in the past. If the process has changed, what does that look like? And any action motion has to be brought back to the next board meeting, August 5th. Any questions? Okay, Ashley?
So I'll go over kind of our timeline of, when we started, and where we're at. And that is part of your packet there. So September 3rd, commissioners approved, option 5 of the DDA proposal, which would be, the full package, job description, the, wages, all of that. So it was the full package from DDA. September 5th, we had a kickoff meeting with DDA. Personnel committee did. September 6th, all job descriptions, union contracts, titles and grades were submitted to DDA and spreadsheets with employee information. September 30th, meeting with DDA to discuss the PAQs. October 2nd, an email was sent out to all department heads with the PAQ template to share with their staff. And so then in red is what the email was. October 16th, the deadline to submit the completed PAQs to HR. October 22nd, PAQs were sent to the personnel committee. October 30th, personnel committee met to review the PAQs. They did that on the 30th and the 31st. November 5th, the personnel committee met with the department heads that requested to discuss the November 12th, personnel committee with DDA to discuss the PAQ structure and process. November 18th, a full call with DDA to discuss the PAQ. November 19th, personnel committee met with county auditor to discuss edits. November 20th, we gathered surrounding counties wages to compare. January 16th, the personnel committee met with the DDA to review the pay plan. And DDA continues to collect data for surrounding counties. They're collecting all 2026 data. March 17th, personnel committee met with DDA. March 21st, county received completed job descriptions. April 25th, meeting with DDA. May 8th, meeting with DDA to discuss department head presentation. June 4th, the department head meeting, DDA, we did an overview of the development of the job study, benchmarks, and discussion of the new structure. Job descriptions were sent out to all department heads with deadline of June 11th to review. That same day, job descriptions had missing information that department heads and personnel committee had found. Job descriptions were sent out to department heads to review to make those corrections. June 6th through June 11th, job descriptions collected from department heads were forwarded to the personnel committee to review and then on to DDA. June 11th through the 16th, DDA reviewed and revised job descriptions. June 17th, DDA to represent the wage station to the board. And June 26th, an email, the wage scale, the DDA PowerPoint presentation, position analysis, and updated job description to department heads to share with their staff. And again, that draft is in that as well of what was sent. June 27th, an email was sent to department heads informing them of the appeals process. The email indicated the request to appeal the information was Wednesday the 2nd. June 2nd, the request to appeal was due. If requested, HR are sent out the appeal information. Then July 10th, an email was sent out to all employees regarding the appeal process. If decided to allow, and it was decided to allow employees to appeal both the grade and the job description. July 15th, department heads, today is the deadline for the appeals for, to get the employees' appeals to their department heads to review. And the department heads have a deadline of today to get their appeals to HR. The department heads have 3 weeks to review their employees' appeals, so August 5th is the deadline for that. And so that was sent out. That's the timeline of kind of where we started, where we're at now. So the information that was sent out to employees was the wage study, or the board approved wage scale, the PowerPoint, the position analysis, which was explained that it was determined by the current market values found in the study when looking at the benchmarks. If a classification it was not in the spreadsheet, it was because there were less than 3 counties that submitted information to DDA. All positions were classified based on data collected, DDA's classification formula, PAQs that were submitted, as well as market trends. And so that was the email that was sent out. So that's where we are today.
Just a question, make sure I heard that sentence or statement when you said less than 3. What did you say there?
So on the position analysis, what DD explained to me is that when they go and collect data from other counties, if they receive less than 3 counties They're not comparing to the county, so they're going off the PAQs and the data at market trends.
If that didn't occur though.
There were some, yep. So the ones that were not on the position analysis they didn't receive enough data from other counties. Doesn't mean they weren't classified. It's just they didn't have that information to compare to. The county treasurer, assistant county attorney, assistant environmental services administrator, investigator, license bureau director, dispatch record supervisor, office manager, account tech, dispatch LAS and 911 coordinator, heavy equipment operator, cadet, and recycling attendant. Those were the ones that were not on the position analysis, but were classified. So I just explained why they weren't on that spreadsheet that BDA had sent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do.
Mhm.
Do you have anything else, Ashley? Okay. Anybody wants to, talk, they can go ahead, somebody can start.
Well, I'll go ahead and start. So, what, I got 5 minutes, do I always have?
Yeah.
So one of the things that came up, with the new wage study through DDA is, it was presented to us that we had a wage scale and also a new grade. Something missing from it is the points, that have always been taken into consideration when making the decision on the grade and the steps for the job title. We've been told that that's proprietary to DDA, so it cannot be released. I got a problem with that because that's part of the decision that is being made when it comes to where we fall on grades and steps. Now, if in fact it is proprietary, then how is it that employees of this county have it regardless of their position? And cannot release it. So that to us as a group is an issue. I took it upon myself to look at the 32 positions studied in the study and find that 10 of the positions within the county go backwards in pay. They physically lose pay with the new grade and steps. And then overall, when it comes to all the positions within Grant County, the sheriff's office combined loses the most as far as when it comes to where we fall for increases. And our chief deputy position is the biggest loser for wording when it comes to the amount of money that position would now lose with the new study, without much of an explanation when it comes to it. I understand that there's comparisons with the counties are, in our opinion, in my opinion as well, kind of out of whack when it comes to using those as comparisons. And so that's a request from the group. I believe that some of you have been given what I had prepared and what Jen had prepared when it came through some of the information. And we also learned too that a lot of the information that we're sitting here reviewing was never given to, or the commissioners were not aware of it, my understanding. So that raises the question is, how are we making decisions on the process of accepting wage scales, grades, and steps when the commissioners were not aware of the steps and grades presented?
Can I ask you a question, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay, this point, you gotta bring me along on that, and you talked about proprietary information,
Yeah.
help me out with that comment.
So the last study that was done by the county, one of the things presented to us is called the Grant County Title and Grade. And that study, each grade and position is given a point system.
And those points are then based off of, you know, what your title is and where your grade falls. It's our understanding that DDA also has a title and grades point system. But according to what we've been told, that's proprietary and cannot be released for our viewing. Also the understanding that the points are part of, you know, how the grades are determined and where they fall. So without the point system for us to look at, how can we agree that a step in a grade on the new through DDA is even accurate? So that's a question that we have.
So let me interrupt again, if you would. What's our explanation for that?
It's a recommendation from DDA. DDA would have to explain that.
Yeah, but, okay, but there's gotta be more. I think he raises something that is important. What's the answer to that?
Well, part of the issue is, and I know that we have to look at, we can talk about the person. We've been told that time and time again. We can talk about the person as we gotta look at the position. And I guess it is what it is when it comes to that, okay? But if we're being told that we as employees cannot see the points that is proprietary to DDA, and the only persons that have access to those points are the negotiating committee and the personnel committee. How does that make any sense? Because it just so happens that some of those people on those committees are also employees of Grant County, minus the board members, okay? But they're also employees of Grant County, okay? It happens to be that, you know, some of those positions, one, sees a bigger increase in steps. And again, the position sees an increase in a grade of steps, okay? We understand that. But if we're talking about fairness, as far as looking at a point system and trying to come up with a reasoning behind what has been presented to us so far, then how is it okay that those committee members, who also are employees, minus the board members, have access to the points if it's proprietary to DDA? We want to see the points. The union groups, I can't speak for the union, I'm not in the union. The unions want to see those points. They want to see the full study. They want to understand how it is that DDA came to the point in which we're all at right now. And, you know, as you can see, there's a number of people in this room, employees of this county, who are concerned about how this study has been done and where it's going. Because there's a considerable amount of money that's being lost to higher up positions within this county. But there's also higher up positions and titles in the county that gain significantly. So we're, you know, when we talk about transparency on things, that's what, you know, I think all of us as a group, the concerned, are asking for. That's all. That's what I have.
Do you have anything to say, or?
Well, we gotta have an answer. We can't just sit here and listen. So, Mr. Chair,
Well, it's open for discussion.
or at least have a
Yeah,
discussion.
I mean, that's, yeah. And I understand, there's no decision to be made today, I understand that, that was put on, laid out there to begin with, but it's just. It's just, it's a bad feeling.
So, if I may. So, if you commence to hire like a DDA, David Young. And then addresses the positions and obviously the salary piece. Would the outcome be different if we didn't do it? In other words, is this process beneficial to independently to each of us? Because I think everyone got an opportunity, this PHU, whatever that acronym is. Everybody got an opportunity. Because of the opportunity, do we collectively feel that it is better or worse? Or would we be better never doing that piece? Again,
I think
trying to
the
get my head
general,
around
I
that.
think the general consensus is the PAQs, turned out worse. Right, there was a lot of things in the PAQs that were not considered in. At the end, I don't believe per position. I know that Jen has got some
Yeah.
additional information regarding that, things that were never taken into consideration. And again, not only for positions within my office, countywide. And some of you do have that sheet that, I had prepared as far as the gains and losses and employees and the departments. So, yeah, I think the PAQs were not favorable to many people within the county because parts of those PAQs were not taken into consideration. Jennifer can explain that more.
Just for instance, our public safety telecommunicators, we, gave them a PAQ, what the job description is, it came back completely different. It actually matched one of the 13 counties that, I think the personnel committee chose the 13 counties. I don't even think it went to the board. But they actually took one of the 13 counties, PAQs from their dispatch job descriptions and used that. Well, we are completely different than that county. And so that was our new PAQ, and that was wrong. So obviously we appealed it again because our telecommunicators do a lot more than just regular dispatch in other counties.
So once again, Mr. Chair. If it's flawed, and these are professionals, how did we get here?
Right.
I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot, because this is a work session, and I feel that communication is really good. How did we get here? Who should answer to that in this room? I wasn't in the room.
So we're at the stage, right, of appealing our PAQs.
Okay.
I mean, that's where we're at. I realize the wage scale was released, but we don't have a PAQ done to collect all of our points. So if the PAQ changes through the appeal process, that grade may change, right? That, we don't know that final until we get through the appeal process. I have a question, Mr. Chair. Go ahead. On the appeal process, who looks at the appeal? Who does that? When the employees, like, I think today or something, they have to have that all done or something to their department head, but who reviews the appeals and who makes the decision? This one should come up for, this one's okay, or who does that?
So the process right now is that all employee PAQs must be into the department head today. The department heads have to be into HR today. They have 3 weeks, so August 5th is the deadline for all PAQs to be in. At that point, the personnel committee will look and also will send a DDA. DDA will look at that because they have to factor in all the information that was sent in, put into their system, to look at that, to come to determination if there is an adjustment.
Okay, so then,
Inside that.
Well, how could we, at this point, how could we even trust DDA when, as the example, our dispatchers, you know, they pull a PAQ from a county that's been chosen by the personnel committee and submit that as the grade and pay scale for our dispatchers here? Then how can we even trust to put any of that back in DDA's hand for them to make a decision on whether that position should be lowered or raised in scale or grade? Because they've already taken the information that individual specific employee has provided in the PAQ, saying this is what I do, or this is what we do as a dispatcher. And then DDA says, no, you don't. This is what you do based on this county, who has no idea what we're doing here, and then submits it. How can we move forward trusting that DDA is going to give the appropriate answer to the job description and the duties specific for that job?
when we got our job descriptions from them, there were so many mistakes on it. So we said, there's mistakes, we'll fix them and send them back in and we'll fix them again. Still come back with mistakes. Well, they have all of our information, should not be right the first time. Should not be accurate. So it looks really,
Do they have the prior job, if the job didn't change, why, I mean, we asked the employee in this PAQ process. Why did it get screwed up?
Well, I think, you know,
The dispatch
it
one,
may be understandable, you know, you've got two different, you know, the last place that did any job studies was Springstead, right? You got two different entities now. You've got Springstead, you did it one time for us, now it's a totally different company, DDA. So they may look at things differently, so part of that in a sense is understandable. They may have a different formula to look at or go by, you know, so again, so that's possibly understandable. But you know, so much of the frustration has come when we were able to listen in on one of the Zoom meetings where Mark was presenting. You know, the question came up when the numbers came out as far as the grades and scales is, well, you know, geez, Mark, you know, people are going backwards. People are actually losing money, and we're not talking, you know, a couple cents, you know, some people are losing, you know, $5 an hour on pay. And the exact comment was, nobody's going backwards, nobody's losing pay. That's what DDA said. I don't know what numbers they're looking at. You know, I'm not sitting here fighting for my position or for my scale. I'm speaking for, I guess, county as a whole. As my office goes too, like I said, because we are the bottom of the list of all the employees in Grant County. We're the top loser when it comes to the chief deputy pay. And I know everybody, you know, in this room from various departments all have the same concerns.
So I got another question, Troy, you said that we're in the appeals process. That's each individual can do an appeal, that be accurate? So are they appealing what I'm hearing that DDA did? Which could be flawed, what I'm hearing, or are they appealing what their job description was and what they submitted on the PAQ? Because obviously there's a gap. Do we have to close the gap before you can have a legitimate appeal?
There's two different forms that I had sent out when we just decided to do appeal, the grade and the job description. So there's one that is the classification, which is the grade and job description, and there's a form that's just the job description. So if there's discrepancies or something that's not accurate, they can put in that appeal of what they feel needs to be changed or looked at. As far as the grade, the classification, they can explain why they feel that their grade is not accurate and explain that process.
So the PAQ, the questionnaire, that information is then pulled in the forming of the job description. So if you ask me which one, I mean, really you're appealing both, it's. The PAQ is like underneath the job description, that's how they get there.
But if took a respective employee, and if their job didn't change significantly, which I think in a lot of cases they probably did, right? We're still a county of 6,325, whatever it is. Their jobs probably didn't change. So why did that change? Well, I feel like we're kind of chasing our tail here a little bit, and so are we appealing something that shouldn't even have changed? And we're kind of putting it in the hands of the employee? I'm mixed up. Sorry.
So
I've
our
been there
public
before.
safety telecommunicator, our dispatch, we're records clerks too, every one of them. 50% of their job is records clerk. They took from a different county, it's almost the exact same job description of just public safety telecommuter. When I showed it to one of ours, they said, so I don't have to do all these other jobs anymore? And I'm like, oh, no, you do. I don't know why that job description says that you don't. But I mean, it took away half of their jobs
So who's gonna do that? I mean, it was absolutely wrong, and for the hours we spent on those PAQs, that's just hard to me.
It's almost like the job descriptions were copied and pasted from somewhere else, not even looked at before they got sent to us.
I also wanna add that these 13 counties that were chosen. I don't think DDA is taking into effect that some of these counties, they offer incentive, like a incentive pay or retention pay. Some of these, I can speak on behalf of law enforcement. Some of these counties that were chosen received $5,000 to $10,000 for deputy retention. Dispatch received $10,000 and I think a 2-year span. DDA is not taking into effect, they just call them up and say, hey, what's your top wage of this position? And that's what they take, but they don't take into effect, like, maybe they're receiving, since these are lower counties, lower paid counties that were chosen. I don't think they're taking into effect, like, the benefits that they are receiving. They may receive a lot more in health insurance, they may receive more on call time. It's not based off of 20-80 hours. Our deputies don't work 20-80 hours, we work 143 hours more at the same rate. I mean, I don't think they're taking into effect everything that these counties are offering. There's more benefits that these counties are offering because they have a lower wage. So that was the appeal on every one of our positions out of Grant County.
I wanna go back to when John was talking about the point system, and we don't have the points, we can't see them. So there's 3 guys here that were all separate classified, they're all different job descriptions. They were all different grades before, now they all got looped into one grade, they're all gonna get paid the same now. Oh, that's what it's saying. So you were the same, okay, you know, now it's, so there's different responsibilities and different roles that each one of them do. But do I agree they should all get paid the exact same? No, I don't think that's right either. So I think there's something missing there. They're not looking at it properly.
So I got a question, actually, in the first down committee. Would you say that your intent was to have this outcome, or was this DDA's plan? I just can't believe that this board and our respective people purposely have got us here. You gotta defend yourself, because I'm hearing what I'm hearing, and it's kind of concerning. So is this DDA's strategy, or was it ours?
So this is DDA's project. You know, so we gave them the information that they needed and that they requested, they go through their process, right? So there are some questions that I had received that I asked DDA, because Mark couldn't be here. I wanted him to be online to talk, but he was in another county. So some of the questions that we did that I was asked is, why did the min and max for some of the positions in the county decrease? His response that he said I could share is DDA conducted an extensive market study using comparison counties agreed upon by the board to determine what the market pays for your positions. When DDA was evaluating the positions using the JET system and placing them into the grade, he made sure that looked at for all jobs in the county, that the county was paying competitively compared to the market. Unfortunately, that meant that some positions were paid highly competitively, did see a decrease in their minimum and max. This does not mean that the employee loses any actual pay, just the potential earnings in the future could be reduced. If the county would like to ensure that everyone sees an increase in their min and max, we can provide a structure that would accomplish this, but it would cost several $100,000s of dollars above the current cost modeling. The second question that I asked him to answer was why is my grade different? I used to be in the same grade as another job, like if someone's looking at the grade. DDA uses our proprietary JET system to evaluate positions. This system examines a job from 7 different factors and is more comprehensive and inclusive than other evaluation systems. The number of grades within the county is also changing, so it is really a completely different way of managing compensation than what was used before. As a result, comparisons against the previous structure would be difficult. So those are some of the questions that, you know, we had received, and I wanted to get an answer from him, but of course he couldn't be here today. And so that was his explanation on that.
So everybody aware of the JET system? Should we tell these people what it is?
So the JET system is, the DDA sent,
I can read it off to you. Qualifications, decision-making, problem-solving, relationships, effort, mental and physical, hazards and environment. So somebody applied those 7 items to you people. So we should talk about that.
I just don't know how you can pick a grade when you don't, like, if you're going off of our job descriptions and the PAQs. How do you even choose a grade if you don't even have the job description even close to it? Okay. Like, it's so far off.
One of my biggest concerns with this study is that it was bad data, that put bad in, bad comes out. My review of it, looking at the peer counties that were used, one of which was Kittison County, which is right next to Canada. It's 3.5-hour drive from here. And counties were put in our peer group that shouldn't have been in there. It didn't match, it only matched, some of them only matched 40% of what DDA's criteria was for creating a peer group. We lose deputies constantly and have for many, many years to Douglas, Otter Tail, Alec, and Fergus PD. And while some of the reasons may change, but there's always a general one. You guys aren't competitive. You're not paying me. I can go there, change my uniform, and do the exact same job for a heck of a lot more money. Now, when I look at the criteria that was used to create the peer group, Otter Tail and Douglas get 4 out of the 5 criteria that we use are 80%. However, they were not used in this study. Like I said, other counties with a 40% match rate were used. This in turn leads to bad data, which in turn leads to a failure rate of the study of approximately 50%. In my opinion, that if the study has failed. I mean, if we were in grade school, 50% is an out. The study in general has a failure rate, which in turn gives us all bad data, all bad job descriptions. In my opinion, this study was a failure.
I was born and raised in Kittson County. It's not representative of Grant. I can tell you that.
Well, the question, it raised the question of who is responsible for picking those counties to compare to Grant? Who picked them?
I don't think it was the board, correct?
I can't answer that statement. No, DDA picked the county. Kittson County is on there.
Yeah.
Because they're 5 below us in population.
Yeah, you're right, you just can't go off population, you gotta look at individual job descriptions for those county employees and judge off of that versus population.
Well, if my job went by population and I only served Grant County, I don't. I have customers coming from Douglas, Otter Tail, Stevens, Hope. I have customers coming from Ramsey and Hennepin County.
Just for driver's tests.
Just for driver's testing, time transfers, tachographs, everything. So if you're gonna judge my office just by Grant County, you can't. I don't service just Grant County. I service Grant County and a lot of surrounding counties. And a lot of the offices in mine, you have private offices, you have city owned, you have county owned, you have state owned. Yeah, I mean, I'm a county owned office, but they're privately owned ones. Morris is privately owned. You have city owned ones. You have state owned ones. It's a variety.
Well, Mr. Chair, I received an email that kind of paints up quite a picture here. And I'd like to read this a little bit. I think the board needs to take a deeper look of the hierarchy of the wage study done by DDA. I find it hard to believe that the duties of the sheriff are less than that of the coordinator. The auditor, or the duties of the auditor are the same as the HR director. There are several positions that top pay grade 13 hourly rate was reduced. In the spirit of attracting and retaining staff, this seems to fall short of the objective.
So I think it's important to probably recognize that the people involved necessarily didn't do this on purpose. I don't know that we should throw anybody individually under the bus. Is that maybe DDA, this process is flawed. I chuckled that we have July 15th as a deadline, and why we're there is irregardless, but we have some issues in the room that I think need to be resolved. And how we get there, I think we should try to focus on an outcome that's positive and productive. And so we can move forward and have some semblance of agreement. Cause it doesn't appear that we have that now. And it's just too bad DDA wasn't here to represent themselves, cause I think they have some answering to do, but it's
a third of your employees are actually going backwards. That's a lot. And if you want to retain employees, I just don't think this should go forward. A third, that's a lot of people. And a lot of them are department heads.
My question is, why do we spend the money to hire these agencies? When I think our county is capable of doing it themselves, figure out which year for our raises or where it should be at, what they should say. They know us better than anybody.
Without an entity that is a third party. Yeah, to say that this needs to be here or there, that gets to be.
Other counties do it.
Most other counties I talk to use DDA. Mr. Chair, I got some.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're sitting here today discussing this, which is good. So, but we need to see how this appeal process works out. And we need to see how the DDA takes a look at those appeals and redoes this or what they come with. And then my question is, when they finally come with what they finally come with, what can the board do about it if we disagree with some of that stuff? Can we say, no, this is gonna go into a higher step, or what can we do? That's my question here, because, you know, we just need to see what they're gonna come with before we can do anything else, as far as I'm concerned. So.
We've already seen what they come with though.
No, when they look at the appeal, there's gonna be some recategorizing, I would think, on appeal. I don't know, maybe not. But if it isn't, then we'll know that, so.
Seems like, I don't plan on filing an appeal for me personally, but, seems like the appeal process is very important here as the next step, and that can't, you know, I hear a lot of the employees here say that, you know, we're comparing apples to pineapples, and you just can't do that, you know, so I think it's important for appeals to list, you know, these are the counties that I was compared to. These two are totally off base. I would recommend that you use this and this for my department, you know. For example, you know, some departments maybe have Otter Tail County in their comparison. Well, if I used Otter Tail County for mine, you know, they would blow me away. I wouldn't want Otter Tail County as my comparison. So using the same counties across, rubber stamp across all departments is not fair. So, but where you're at in the process, I think if your appeal, you know, in the dispatcher's case, if your appeal stated, you know, job description's wrong, here's why, because it only accounts for 50% of my job. Here's another county that is similar, more similar to Grant County. Maybe it's clear across the state, who the hell knows, but maybe their clerks do, you know, the records as well. Please use this county as a comparison for my department. That's just a recommendation. We've kind of right the ship, if you will, if, you know, if the highway department is getting off base and they don't feel that Kittison County is a comparative example, you know, let them put the onus on them and say, okay, well, you tell me which county is similar. Is my 2 cents.
To respond to that, Rob, I would warn that I don't know that we're gonna have, everybody's gonna have different counties, right? So we're gonna go find the ones that are paying the highest. And if you're gonna reference Douglas and Otter Tail, you're gonna have to show where we're comparing ourselves to them elsewhere. Cause yes, we live next to Douglas and we live next to Otter Tail, but they're not anywhere like, as you referenced, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say Kittison is like Grant County today. But I can sit here and tell you that they're much larger, Douglas and Otter Tail.
In my office, they are the competition. It breaks my heart over the years that my office has now become the stepping stone office. We've lost so many people to those guys. They can go there, they take a big pay bump. And I have a lot of friends that work in those departments. And over the years, jokingly, they'll make comments to me about, hey, I see you got a new hire. Yep, sure do. Well, they turning out really good, like them. It's gonna be awesome. Cool, well, you got them ready for us to pick up? Yep. And then all of a sudden they're gone. They are the #1 competition for talent in this county. I should say our county spends a tremendous amount of money training people. You know, there's a lot of post mandates that have to happen, post licensure. And unfortunately what happens is we'll spend the money on them, get their post license up and running, get them through all the training. They get a couple of years on and they bounce. And they're gone. And then we start the process over again. And our department keeps getting younger and younger and younger because of that. And right now we're on trajectory to be a very young department. And approximately 6 years, all your old guys like me will be retired. And now we're gonna have a lot of young guys. And that concerns me. We don't have that experience because they're leaving. We don't recruit from Douglas. We don't recruit from Otter Tail. I've never once seen a dispatcher, a cop come from either of those counties to come here. Because they never will. They just won't take that pay cut to do it.
You got something, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Like Kenny said, okay, when I was young in '86, when I started with the county, I could have left. Okay, because there was better pay around, we all knew that, better facilities, you know, no on call. But I decided to stay, Langley stayed, Combs stayed, Fleming stayed. So we're lucky for that. But these other counties, they do pull our resources. So, you know, but the bottom line is that some decided to stay because they're, you know, yeah, we could have made more money other places, but we stayed. Yeah, but this is a problem where we do lose our good personnel and you know, it's more and more as time goes by that are getting trained in here and they move on. So, yeah, so it's something we have to look at there.
And within the last year or two, we were kind of neck and neck with the wages of Otter Tail and Douglas, and now we're just, with this new study, we're falling way below. Like, I think this study is flawed in many ways.
So Otter Tail County deputy makes more now than I do, by like a buck and a half, almost $2 an hour.
But
And that's including my longevity and 23 years service.
Dwight had to talk about the appeals process, so I get a question. In this process with DDA. Shouldn't we have the respective staff member agree to the job description? And not have somebody tell them what their job is? Wouldn't that,
Well, we've already done these job descriptions, we've already given it to them.
why did they
come
change?
back with something completely different, like,
I mean, to me, that's the kind of the starting point.
Well, our current job descriptions, you know, as they were asked, tried the DEQs were submitted. And they're telling us, no, that's not your job.
Yeah, that's kind of what.
We're telling you that this is what your job is. And so that's.
we're gonna need more staff.
What's that?
If you're gonna hire my
That's clerks, because
And then it's like, well, who are they to tell me what my job is here in Grant County?
So, Mr. Chair, I got a question. Do we agree with that? Yes or no? Why don't we answer that for these people?
Do we agree with what?
Do we agree that they told these people what their job was, that was incorrect? Yes or no?
Well, we're in the process of appealing those job descriptions, right?
I understand that, Troy.
We're
I'm not
appealing,
blaming you.
them. The board is not appealing.
I understand, but I'm not throwing anybody under, I'm saying, do we agree that they changed it, that got us to the appeal process? And if we do agree to that, why don't we go back to square one? And say, don't take what they changed to try to appeal, take what they had. Or is that,
We did, so the first round, we got them back and there were many issues. And I had my conversations and frustrations with DD as well. And had conversations that they need to be changed, so we sent the job descriptions back out to the department heads and the employees and told them to look at them over, add what you need to add, and we'll send them back to DDA. And then they added what was, to my knowledge, and I hadn't heard from any other department that was information that departments had included that wasn't added in there, to what they had highlighted or edited, what they wanted in there. And so then those came back and were sent back out.
Mr. Commissioners, I gotta get up to Ashby at 11 o'clock, but just before I leave, I wanted to thank you all for listening to me today and the rest of us. I'd like to stay, but I'm gonna be late already, so thank you for your time.
thank you.
This is Chad. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I would just like to add, going back to the PAQs, when they were originally submitted to the Personnel Committee, those PAQs as written, some of those were also edited by the Personnel Committee before they were submitted.
So that again raises the whole question of who is deciding what Pat's job is. DDA and Personnel Committee? Who's deciding what my job is? Anybody's jobs. If Personnel Committee is making changes to the PAQs.
There's a
It'd be no, I mean, it'd be no, I can't sit here and tell anybody what Pat's job is. I can't. Can't tell you what Tina's job is, or Ashley's, or Maya's job is, or nothing, I can't. 'Cause I don't know. So. What
what makes DDA say this is what your job is and what makes the personnel committee decide what individuals' jobs are based on the information that employees submitted for the PAQs?
And then again, it was very showing very good transparency, and if we don't even know what actually was sent to the DDA. Because we're, in my mind, what we spent hours on the PAQs was getting sent to the DDA, but if things were changed and taken out, that's disheartening too, because we should have gotten a copy of what was sent out then. Cause then we don't, I mean, it's flawed from the beginning in our eyes.
That information, yep, so personnel committee met, if there are any changes, those changes were sent to the department heads to approve before they were sent to DDA.
Okay,
So that
so
was,
they done come back. to us.
yes, yep.
Ashley, when was the last wage study done with Springstead? What year was that?
2016.
Okay. Now, I don't remember anything, that was disheartening in that study.
Oh, yeah, I got in on the implementation part, not the actual EAQ and where we're at currently. It was just the implementation, and yes, it was the same thing. If you have job classifications that are on the top end, they're going down. It was the same then, and we could have told you back when we started this, September of last year, that there would have been job classifications that were going down. Dwight, you were involved in how many? That's not uncommon that there's job classifications that go up and there's job classifications that go down.
I don't remember any of the feedback from the county employees that was to this degree though. But maybe you guys did. I didn't ever sit on the personnel side of it.
Well, there might be a difference with the classification versus if a person's gonna lose hourly wages. There's a difference. And I know that in question here amongst many of the county employees is some are the grade, whether it went up or down. And then others is obviously the wage, whether it went up or down. And the biggest question is, why did some of the positions see such a minimal increase? I mean, we're talking like 18 cents. Versus as high as $10.95 an hour increase. So it's a combination of many things, the rate, the wage, and the steps. Just going back to what you said, Bill, maybe the positions may have been questioned, why? There's always been that fight is that an employee is never gonna go backwards in their wage. And that seems to be one of the major things here today as well. And as I indicated earlier, we can all know that the unions are now involved in this. And that's their fight forward too.
So, Mr. Chair, we gotta give the appeal process back to the way what he said. Do we need to identify a date to get that piece resolved? Cause I think unless we get that piece resolved, I don't know if the comparison can't really take the next step. If we're, like Rob said, if we're comparing apples to pineapples, and these people know what their jobs are. But what do we do, Troy?
What do you want?
Well, if I was sitting in one of those chairs, I would like to be able to stand up and explain that my job really hasn't significantly changed. Here it is. Forget EDA, they can apply it to the wage piece, but the job piece is wrong, this is what I do. That's what Ken did.
But if you're gonna apply that, the job title or description to the wage, it has to be comparable. Because the way it's sounding, just the dispatchers, for example, half of their job is not in the job description, so they should not, they're not getting paid as much. But then are you gonna hire another set of employees, cover what they're not doing?
It's in the old job description though, the new job description's just missing.
Right, but I mean, if you're gonna go off the old, or the new job descriptions, they're not accurate to begin with.
Right, but we gotta get them accurate, say that.
But they were all accurate, where we came from.
We've been there and done that.
Yeah,
Get it accurate.
yeah.
We went through the whole process to get them to what we thought were accurate, and they come and they change it to what they think is correct, is not right. That doesn't show any trust in their system.
And that's what I was saying, that's what we need to fix.
But moving forward, now you have just given everybody, all of your employees, because all of your employees receive this. So 1/3 of your employees, they're upset and they're not gonna trust anything that goes forward. And I think the morale is just. It has. And I, you know, based on market values, well, okay, in today's day, law enforcement, it's a very competitive, and so if you're gonna take DDA's word and say, oh, I'm sorry, the deputies or investigators, they're gonna make a 17 cents on the top end, like, what is that? That's not being competitive at all. And like I've told most of you, you will have a lawless county. We don't want that. And, you know, highways really affected. Have a county without a highway department.
Yeah.
It's not good. I mean, I just think we have to. I think we've shown that DDA has not done their job in the beginning. And if we're gonna continue to go with them, everyone's gonna have, they're gonna put their guard up. You don't lose money going into a pay study. Yeah.
Well, you know, Jennifer and I both, you know, we have attended a number of conferences through the year, Minnesota Sheriff's Association. And, you know, always hot topics right now is, jails, Department of Corrections. And then it's also about detention and recruitment. So always the hot topics. Whether they're a topic within, the conference or afterwards or before a conference, it's always a conversation piece. And I know at the latest summer conference that we both attended, again, talk about retention and recruitment, wages, wage studies, and the general consensus amongst many offices, sheriff's offices throughout the state, whose counties use DDA. It was very poor. Very poor, not happy with decisions made by DDA. Recommended not to utilize them. So. And that's not obviously our decision, that was our decision back last year to use somebody different. But I don't know, it doesn't seem like they're too well liked here in the state of Minnesota.
John, could you email me which counties those were that decided not to use DDA?
To not use DDA? Why should they use DDA and we're not having them?
Oh, I thought I heard you say that there was counties that decided not to,
No.
after they got to a certain point, they stopped.
I think they're probably experiencing what we're experiencing.
So on the salary piece, help me out Ashley, and what you handed us. The salary study, now aside from the descriptions, let's forget that they're wrong in some cases. But on the low end, it was 3.5% increase on step. In the middle range, it was 3%, 0.5. And then last was 2. So. And if I'm right, they would get that, say if in the middle, 7 years, they would get a 3% increase plus a COLA if that was negotiated, right?
So this is the percentage in between steps.
Yeah, so.
Yep.
It's, I don't know if you do a wage study, if it's intended necessary for everybody's salary to go up. The steps, in a sense, do that with the COLA or negotiations or whatever. And so, I guess. But I also don't think you do a wage study to go backwards, so I hear that. But I still say we gotta get the descriptors correct. And so make sure we're applying, it's not apples to pineapples, like Rob said. But the system is in place for everyone to get an increase.
My wage actually took a decrease at the end.
No,
Negative.
and that's, so we gotta look at the description side. Once you apply the chart, it's not intended to, I don't think DDA purposely tries to drive down the wages, I don't.
But if you're told you're gonna get this last year, cause you got this new wage that comes out, and at the end, this is what you're supposed to make, and that's what you're working for. And now you're gonna take that away,
No,
I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I hear.
And I get that. Maybe it shouldn't be where it's at, but. You shouldn't show 13 years old either.
But then when you hit 7 years, you basically are gonna get the most out of the county that you're gonna get, like, it's pretty hard to say retention, oh, now you're gonna only get 2%. You know, cause you've been here for 7 years, like, well, we dedicated this much time to you, and now we're gonna get less.
You have loyal employees that are staying here. What are you gonna do to help them stay here?
I know it's a process when you gotta train in a new person. Every time you turn around. You know. You get somebody that's good and they leave. And then you get the next person, they're good. They leave.
The amount of time it takes me to train a person doesn't just decrease the amount of time. So I work for the sheriff's office. So it doesn't just, we're not just down a deputy. I'm also put at a loss during that time because I can't stretch myself as far as I could go in my job because a lot of my focus is put on training that individual. So the extra services that I normally provide, the above and beyond moments are now spent training that newer deputy. And then, you know, if I have to train somebody new in a year or two, that process is months in training them. And even then, they're still new, they're still coming to me with questions.
Yeah, and this is Chad again. I'd like to go back to the comment you made about everyone still gonna receive an increase in a step. That is an inaccurate statement.
Well, the chart, Chad,
No, with placement on it, what he's saying is the placement on the chart from where they are to where they would be placed, they would be, there's one individual that's redlined.
oh, but I was just saying, Chad, that the wages in the chart from up to, it's got 13, there is an increase each year. I don't know if you misunderstood me or.
Unless you're already off the chart.
Right.
Look at the auditor's line item. I'm at step 13 in the current pay. The new wage scale says step 13 is a $2 or $3 loss.
Someone want to comment to Chad?
It is what it is. That's what it, you know, he's right.
I think we could probably sit here all day and just have a little bit of discussion about it. But I think that. I think the board, or deputy realized that, you know, there's certainly, an issue here that employee of the county have raised regarding concerns, and I guess the bottom line is they were just, everybody's asking for some reconsideration here, and kind of working through the process, waiting for these appeals to go through, seeing where DEA comes back. They're having the open conversation, work sessions, study sessions, so we can work through this as a group. Instead of just a handful of people making a decision for the entire county when it comes to the employee state. So.
Anybody else got anything?
Where are we at on the appeals? If you don't have them in and you're not going to, make sure to let Ashley know, don't just not get it in. If you intend to, but you're not gonna get it done. So we know, there, you know, the intent is there, right?
And just to let everybody know that you can appeal on the classification of the title, right?
It's, yeah, the appeal is the classification, so that's grade and job description both.
And I guess the department heads, I think we have a big job on our hands right now because we're trying to keep the morale up. Because everybody received this. So that's a lot. That's a lot.
So have you received, since today is the deadline, have there been a significant amount of appeals?
A handful, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've received, yes, some.
Well, it's just the department heads that.
So the department heads are to me today. Employees are to give their appeals to the department heads today. And then the department heads have 3 weeks to review their staff's appeals until August 5th. And then the appeals get sent to DDA, and DDA has 10 days to a response, unless they would like an extension depending on how many appeals there are.
Okay, so the deadline for everything isn't the 15th today.
That is just for the department heads to get their appeals to me and the employees to get their appeals to their department heads to review.
I think DDA could also help by, you know, the dispatcher's job description is that screwed up. You know, sheriff and his team, they don't have visibility on every county in the state or across the country, if you will, on those, all those job descriptions. They have a responsibility, in my opinion, to come back and say, oh, well, here's a county up in northeastern Minnesota that does pretty much exactly what you do. Maybe we should use them as a comparison rather than somebody that doesn't match, you know, so I think they should be helping as well to help match up job descriptions.
Well, Mr. Chair, I wanted to thank Tina and Ashley for actually putting something together for on the agenda here, and so we had a work session so we could actually, you know, air out some concerns and make sure everybody's voices are heard. So, you know, I appreciate you guys putting this together, and I think it's important, you know, just to, you know, retain employees and let you guys have your voice. Cause everybody needs that, regardless of your highway department or sheriff or department head or whoever, right? So it was good that we did this, and I think something good can come from this. We gotta take a deeper look into this thing. So after the appeals process, and I guess we'll go from there. That's the next step, right?
Mr. Chair, I got some. Okay, I echo Bill's statement there. But I know a little bit about the sheriff's department in Grant County. And it is unique how that office runs compared to other counties in the state. Because dispatcher is not only a dispatcher, they're typing reports, they're filing, you know, reports. They're doing all sorts of things across the board, and if their job description just says that they're just dispatchers who are vitally important, then that's not accurate and that's not a good deal. So, it's just Grant County is a unique county and with law enforcement, yeah, you probably aren't gonna stop them all from moving just because you pay them, because other counties, you don't have any on call. You're done. You can go do what you want to. In Grant County, if the crap hits the fan, they're calling off duty deputies to come in and help, cause you need the help. So that's not gonna change. And some people don't like to be on call. They don't like to be bothered when they're off duty. They don't want their cell phone on. They don't want none of that on. And in big counties, you're fine. You can go do that. Not in Grand County. You know, the highway department, they helped us out so much when, during, these blizzards and road conditions and hazard. You know, they were always willing to come. It's unique. The bigger counties, I don't know how they run, you know, like the Hennepins and the Ramseys with they probably don't have they have roads, but it's just different out here. And, but that's what makes Grant County good too and unique, because we always work together, so. So, yeah, I'm not overly impressed with DDA. We'll just have to see how the appeal process goes and, take a look at it then. I'm not impressed if they change job descriptions from this county at all. And, I don't know if they did that with the highway department people too, I don't know. You know, I guess you guys seen what they come back with, but anyway, that's my 2 cents, but we gotta see what they're gonna do. And, yeah, I'd like to have that guy. I wish he would have been on today. It would have been kind of interesting here. You know, some good questions would have been answered, so. But anyway, that's where I'm at. And then the only other thing I got is like Chad's comment. He's been here like, I don't know, he's been here forever, I guess. But this chart is up to step 13. So after that, if somebody has all of that time in here, who determined what their pay rate is, just what we set as COLAs and stuff goes on top of that? Okay. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But I do appreciate you guys' work, all of you.
Anybody else got anything?
There's been a lot of concerns going around of people doing stuff that's not in their job description, because it's a liability to the county and stuff. So if part of our jobs don't get into our job descriptions, can we just say, well, I don't have to do that because it's not in my description? That makes Grant County look bad. So to me, if our job descriptions aren't accurate, what we do and what we perform every day, even if it is going a little bit above to help somebody out, that makes Grant County look bad, and that's not our intention. But to me, that's what a DDA is trying to do by not putting our job into our job description completely. So that's what we're, to me, fighting for, is to get our job description right, so we can do our jobs.
Anybody else?
I just want to reiterate that the law enforcement, just the atmosphere that we're all in. I mean, people coming out of schools can pick their jobs for however much money they want. So for DVA to classify all of law enforcement at a lower grade, I don't even know if that's possible, because it's such a competitive market right now. And to foresee people getting lower grades or even a 61 cent increase, and that doesn't even make sense. That's not what's happening in Minnesota.
Got a question, did Stevens fill those 2 positions? Yes. Okay.
Well, I think we heard you, and we gotta work to resolve it.
And it's just too bad that we've spent probably a lot of money getting this far. to come out to see that it's flawed. And going forward, I think a lot of us have lost their trust, so. It's a waste. Lost their motivation. Motivation, morale is why should we take that extra step to help their appreciation isn't there.
Do we got anything else? Not, we'll call her a day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Sure.